So I'm just gonna record this now because I want to talk more about it in depth a little bit later, but it's very strange. So Michael Knowles just made a video that was basically like criticizing Black Cleopatra, right? Now, I think Americans and Europeans to an extent as well, they have very warped understandings of race because they see things as white and black. Most of the planet is black and Asian, like Chinese, like Africa, not like North, like the Cleopatra is from North Africa. That's like Egypt. I consider myself personally black, right? But Egyptians do not consider themselves black, but they also do not consider themselves white. I'm saying this is not in my own words. I have just literally gone to North Africa to talk to North African people. They don't consider themselves white or black. Like, those are two racial groups that they don't really identify with. So now Michael's trying to make this point, making Cleopatra a black woman is wrong, okay? And then he starts to call her white. He's like, oh, well, she's Greek. How is she Greek if she's from North Africa, from Egypt? You got a whole bunch of people from Egypt who are like telling you her history. She's not, now she's Greek? She's Greek? I mean, I'm not really sure. I understand that she was a powerful woman, and I think maybe we already have movies or whatever about Cleopatra. I also think it's offensive when like Katy Perry and other people are making commentary and like music videos that are supposed to be about Africa. Like, Katy Perry has nothing to do with Africa, but no white people are offended by that. To me, that was really offensive. Like, and everyone else was just like, it's fine. And now all these like white people are feeling, I don't know, affiliation with Cleopatra. Like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, white girls in America are like, I don't know, what similarity does Michael Knowles have with North Africa? Like, nothing. Like, Cleopatra was like, the way that white Americans see themselves as like white is not really the way that like other people who are fair skinned from other parts of the world see themselves. And then he started to talk about culture. Let's be serious. Like, what does white American culture and Starbucks have to do with like Cleopatra, who's from North Africa? Like, nothing. Like, I don't know. That's like so different that I don't know. And then he was talking about like, she's not culturally black. Okay, so what does it mean to be culturally black? I would like to know, just to make sure that I start doing the culturally black things. Like, here I am sitting on a swing. Sorry. Is this like culturally black? Maybe if I listen to a Drake song, then I'll be culturally black. I mean, I am gonna go to the Beyonce concert, so let's call that culturally black. Maybe we need to talk. I mean, I don't know. What is he talking about? Like, Black American? Okay. And then I saw that something is happening in Florida where they're like taking off diversity and inclusion. They're taking money away from diversity. They're taking public university dollars away from diversity and inclusion initiatives. That's interesting. This is in Florida, so DeSantis is making a bill. So it's almost like he's like opposed to it. And they started talking about like gender ideology and stuff, and talking about how like if you want to do that, you can go to Berkeley. Man, I can't really speak to all the gender stuff. I don't really know. I will say that like poor women need to be studied, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, because there's a really interesting article that came out about how because of like climate change, like poor women are running out of food in a lot of parts of the world, and that's true. Now, this doesn't really impact a lot of people in America or in the developing world, but in other parts of the world, people don't really have the soil, the fertilizer, to like make and grow crops. And it's just like, man. It's a real problem. So, what I don't understand is like, what, first of all, the diversity and inclusion budget is probably tiny anyway, but like to make a bit, like it just feels like there's other shit that like probably Florida needs to focus on. Who approved the money in the first place if y'all didn't care about it? And I don't know, like it's so much of it is just like I don't know. The only thing I could say is like I too do not want to be included in a diversity and inclusion conversation. What I do want to be included in is the conversation about reparations for the descendants of American chattel slavery. That is the only conversation I have, and that has nothing to do with diversity or inclusion, because slavery wasn't diverse. It was only one group that was enslaved. It was black people who were descendants of slaves from Africa. That's who it was. A lot of the black people who are here now have nothing to do with that story, so it's not concerning them neither. If that ain't your story, okay, if you don't know nothing about black American, and like there's just so much shit that happened to black Americans specifically. Now, I thought it was interesting the other night when I was watching Elon Musk talk to Bill Maher. He was like talking about how nobody knows what the president did. They only knew that he was a slave owner. Okay, like a lot of those talking points come from black activist groups like the Black Panthers, like who basically did the work to try to understand why or why not they would like the leaders of this country. And then, you know, they were like, Bill Maher and Elon Musk were trying to make the fact that like, well, these men also built the country, that they did off of the backs of slaves. You can think whatever you want to think about how great this country is now and how, okay, all these people have opportunities now, but y'all, a lot of you guys are missing these like in-between factors. Like, think about this. Let's put this into context. 50 Cent at one point was in prison. He was like shot up. He got shot a bunch of times. He comes out of jail and signs with Eminem, or in Dr. Dre, I think. And then he puts out In the Club. Now, he is on tour right now performing In the Club. In the Club was a banger. A banger. Then remember, he signed with like Vitamin Water. He did all these other things. He made other albums. He's like helped other people build careers out of nothing. All these things, right? But it started basically with like In the Club. I mean, there were other things too, but like In the Club was like the moment that changed all these things. And now he's got all these shows. He's got Power. He's got some other show. He's always he's got his like cognac brand, right? All these things that he's doing. But he's able to do those things with the dividends that came from him having this great hit In the Club, right? Slavery kind of worked like that for all white people. Like, we had Jim Crow, okay? We had like mass segregation. They had all of these laws that were just giving white people land, opportunity, jobs, education, all these things that like black Americans literally couldn't get because of racism. And so like when you have like, if you're able to go to college and become a doctor, and then you can like teach your children how to also become doctors, and then their children, and you can buy homes, and you can start all these groups, fraternities, clubs and shit, and invest your money and buy more things. You have like that. This is why black Americans specifically have to keep talking about like reparations specifically. It's just about money. I don't like the diversity and inclusion shit. Yeah, I think I should stop. But also, I think black Americans should have free education and free like Whole Foods gift cards and free housing. Like, those are things that black Americans specifically, as one group, not an inclusive group, not people of color, not Africans from Africa who were never enslaved in America. Like, we are literally talking about things that happened in America that America needs to like pay for, basically. It's like, I bought this here soda. Now this is my soda and I'm responsible for it, and I get to drink it and I get to consume it and I get to be like, yay, it's mine, and you can't have it because it's mine. But if you want a soda, you can buy a soda. If you want to build in America, well, you can too. You can go enslave a whole bunch of black people and build cotton mills, do all the shit that they did that was really awful. then we can all write history books about you and get diversity and inclusion grants. You see how that works? Like, it's like all the things, one thing after another, just like trickles down. This is not, I don't know about the diversity and inclusion POC and all that shit. I'm not talking about that because that doesn't impact me. But I do know Black Americans are owed quite a lot and they deserve to have their things. And they shouldn't have to compete with anyone for those things, because that's the part that is unfair. When other people got shit, other people weren't competing against Black Americans for it. Black Americans actually just weren't allowed. It was illegal for Black Americans to read. It was illegal for Black Americans to write. It was illegal for Black Americans to basically do everything. Go to the grocery store, drive a car, vote. It was illegal. There's no other group that it was illegal for them to do shit. That just has never happened in this country except for Black Americans, and that's why Black Americans have to get shit. There has to be like specific laws that just impact that one group that was discriminated against. The people of color thing is kind of bullshit, because everybody's coming with their own story of bullshit and how awful it was where they were. Oh, I was in India and I had one rice grain, and so now I deserve to have, like, equal this and equal that. Well, actually, no, you don't. You deserve to start from the bottom in America, because the infrastructure was built for there to be a bottom here. There is no bottom in India. People are just dying on the street. They don't have, like, it's not the same. They have, like, a caste system, and they have all these, like, government problems that they need to go solve. Doesn't really have anything to do with us. And when I'm saying us, I'm also including the people who've immigrated here from India. Like, it really doesn't have anything to do with you anymore either. This is America. Welcome. We can't have a whole game though where it's rigged, because like if you never pay the money so that like Black Americans can also have their inheritance the same way that everyone else has their inheritance. Let's be serious. If white Americans all of a sudden we're told, oh, well, the money that your family saved for you for 100 years, you can't have it anymore, they'd be pissed. This is kind of what y'all are saying to Black Americans, because y'all are just creating inheritance packages for your families by working the jobs that you have, by buying your houses and doing all the things. It has to be equal or it has to be nothing. So I don't know about the diversity and inclusion shit, but I do know about like equity and the need for Black Americans to have the things that they are owed. That's a real thing.